Hey guys, welcome back to the College Predictor Week 14, or in other words, Conference Championship Week picks. We're going to be picking every Conference Championship game, but before we get into the games, we're going to start with the shoutouts. We'll start with Arizona's quarterback, Noah Fifita, who was originally the backup against their rivals, Arizona State. He threw for 527 yards and 5 touchdowns. He did throw an interception, but it was towards the end of the game. It didn't really count. And he had a 216.5 rating. Very good game. Ollie Gordon, he has been having an incredible year. In their overtime win against BYU, he carried the ball 34 times for 166 yards and 5 touchdowns. What a game for Ollie Gordon. He could be a Heisman candidate if he keeps playing like this, especially in the Big 12 Championship. Okay, let's get into our first game, which is going to be between the Liberty Flames, the current leaders of Conference USA, against the New Mexico State Aggies. This is the Conference USA Championship, which is weird to think because both of these teams used to be independents last year, and now they're both standing right here, having amazing years. Liberty's undefeated. Technically, I have to say that they're technically contending for playoff, even though there's no chance. But at 12-0, Liberty a great first season in conference play. We knew they were good since last year. Liberty's a very consistent team. And this is a rematch from the Week 2 matchup. At home, Liberty beat them 33-17. This is a perfect rematch because it's at Liberty again, and New Mexico State should be hungry. New Mexico State, we knew they were good, but until they beat Auburn, we didn't know how good. Their losses were to UMass, Liberty, and Hawaii, which are very random losses besides Liberty, but they made up for the UMass loss with a win against an SEC opponent. Liberty is by far a better team in this game, especially at home, since Conference USA doesn't have a neutral site for their conference championship games. Liberty's going to have to run the ball, slow the ball down against New Mexico State, and I think they could run a lot of option this game. That should be something that they want to do. In this game, I think Liberty is high favorites. They're 10-point favorites in a conference championship game. They should win this game. Give me the Liberty Flames to win this game by 17. Let's go to our next game, which is between the 5th-ranked Oregon Ducks and the 3rd-ranked undefeated Washington Huskies. The first matchup of these two teams could have been the game of the year. Came down to the end. Oregon could have won. They lost. They missed a field goal. Both of these teams have incredible hot offenses. Oregon has been blowing out their opponents since that Washington game. Since they lost to Washington, their scores have been 38-24 against Washington State, at Utah 35-6, 63-19 win over Cal, 36-27 win over SC, 49-13 over Arizona State, and 31-7 over their rivals. Not to mention that they put 81 points up against Portland State and 42 against Stanford and Colorado. Oregon's offense, we knew they good with Bo Nix, Bucky Irving, and Troy Franklin with that kind of trio. They have very solid tight ends as well. And Patrick Herbert, who is the brother of Justin Herbert, and Ferguson, the brother of Jake Ferguson. And Washington has maybe the best wide receiver core in college football regarding Ohio State and LSU. And Romo Dunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan. Not to mention Cade Westover at tight end and Dylan Johnson at running back. I expect this game to be a high-scoring one in Vegas. And after the first matchup of this game at Washington, we all thought Oregon's season was over, but here they are, right in the playoff mix. And the winner of this game is going to get into the playoffs. As simple as that. You can't put a 13-0 team, Power 5, out of the playoffs, And Oregon, if they win, there's going to be a one-loss team, which they would be the best one-loss team, assuming Texas and Alabama win. So in this game, surprisingly, even though they lost the first matchup, Oregon's a 9.5-point favorite. I do think Oregon will win this game, but it's only going to be by 3. Let's go Ducks. All right. Let's go to our next game, which is the Big 12 Championship. between the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma State. Texas, their one loss was to Oklahoma, which at the time looked like a really good loss for them to have if they had any. But then Oklahoma fell apart, and now they're back. So Texas has a really good resume, and the new rankings help them severely. Because Kansas State stayed in the rankings, that was their third ranked win. So that's huge for them. And I think Texas, they're going to run the ball, surprisingly, since Jonathan Brooks is hurt all year. This game could be a run game with Ollie Gordon. We already gave him a shout-out this week. They're going to use him a lot. But Texas is going to watch the film. They're going to be ready for Ollie Gordon. So Oklahoma State is going to have to use the pass game. We know Texas could beat teams in the pass game with Adonai Mitchell, Quinn Ewers, Javon Sanders, and obviously Xavier Worthy. Can Oklahoma State pass the ball good enough to keep up with Texas? Now, they're going to try to run the ball. Even in the passing game, they're going to try to keep up. They're going to try to keep using Ollie Gordon a lot in this game since he's their playmaker. He's their one guy that they're going to have to use a lot. They're going to need their quarterback, their starting quarterback, and Gunnar Gundy, I believe, will be starting in this game. Gunnar Gundy, he'll be used as an option. Bauman will actually be their starter, They've been running 3 quarterbacks all year. Bauman, I believe, will start this game as he has the best stats, yards-wise. This game will be different for Oklahoma State. They're going to use every quarterback, most likely. Texas is only going to use one. And that one is a pretty good one, Quinn Ewers. He makes them a 15-point favorite. Give me Texas by 17. Okay, let's go to our next game, which is the MAC championship. Such an underrated conference. Miami, Ohio, the real Miami, as they have the better record, even though they lost to Miami, against the Toledo Rockets. Now, I don't get this. How do the MAC have a neutral site place to play conference championships, but not the American Athletic Conference? I mean, that just confuses me. Regardless, this game will be played in Detroit, Ford Field. Both these teams are double-digit wins. Miami, Ohio State at 10-2. Toledo State at 11-1. Their one loss to Illinois by 2, which they should have won that game looking back. Now, it is hard for me to agree with an 11-1 team not being ranked, but Toledo hasn't beat anyone this year whatsoever. The best team they beat was Miami, Ohio by 4. So this is another conference situation where it's a rematch, and those are fun. I think if they had beaten Illinois 12-0, they would have been ranked, just like Liberty has. And because of that loss, they kind of broke their hopes of a MAC team in the Power 6 Bowl. Miami, Ohio's 2 losses were at Miami, which no one expected them to win, and Toledo. So, very good resume for the Redhawks. I think Miami, Ohio in this game is going to have a lot of hunger to beat Toledo, but Toledo is going to come in expecting that, and they're going to be running heavy. They're going to be passing heavy. I think Toledo's not going to want to slow the game down. They're going to want to rocket through it. See what I did there with the Toledo Rockets? Yeah, I'm not a good joke. But Toledo is a very good team, and I think they're the best MAC team in a long time. They're the most consistent. Their quarterback play has been very solid. D. Finn has been throwing plenty of touchdowns to a decent amount of interceptions, 8. Their running game's been amazing with a very, very good running back named Penny Boone, who's rushed for 1,039 yards and 15 touchdowns. Very good. Miami, Ohio has not had the best stat leaders, but, I mean, that's where Big Ben went, so that should be really good for them. If they can win this game, Miami, Ohio is going to get a lot of recruits that don't get big school offers, so they're going to want this game. 7-point underdog. Give me the Redhawks to win by 3. All right, we're going to our next game now, which is the Mountain West. Boise State at UNLV. Now, no one expected UNLV to be anything good this year. And here they are, staying at 9-3. Almost didn't make the conference championship. They almost blew it at the end, which would have been embarrassing. But this does make Vegas one of the first to ever host 2 conference championships in 1 week. So, congratulations to Vegas and the Raiders organization and Allegiant Stadium. UNLV, they've looked good all year. Boise State, a little bit inconsistent. UNLV's losses were at Michigan. I mean, who expected them to win that? At Fresno State, which Fresno was ranked at a point. And then at home against San Jose State, which they should have won. They did beat Air Force, though. They beat Wyoming, and they beat Colorado State. So they did beat teams that were close, not to mention Vanderbilt, an SEC team. So this game is going to be a very, very tight one. And since this an NFL stadium and UNLV is not a big school, I don't expect the fan base to be that good. In fact, I expect there to be more Oregon and Washington fans than Boise State and UNLV fans, because they're probably just going to be, hey, there's another game here, let's go ahead and go to it. So this game shouldn't be, the difference maker shouldn't be the atmosphere. The difference maker in this game should be who could win the line of scrimmage, who could be more physical, who could stop the run. I say that it's going to be UNLV. Their offensive line has been playing very solid all year. Boise State's D-line has been pretty solid, but not amazing. They've been protecting many players in the backfield, such as their running back, V. Davis Jr., and their quarterback, Jaden Mavia, who's been having a pretty solid season, good enough to get them to this point. I'm going to say UNLV, 2-point underdogs for some reason. Give me them by, let's go 10. Alright, next game. Potentially, besides Oregon-Washington, the biggest anticipated game for the playoffs and for enjoyment. The SEC Championship. The Georgia Bulldogs, number 1, undefeated, going into the conference championship for the 3rd straight year. And the Alabama Crimson Tide, 1 loss to Texas. This game is going to be the battle of the stars. I mean, both these teams have incredible talent. Scouts are going to be at this game. I guarantee that. Alabama's difference makers are going to have to be Dallas Turner. Chris Braswell needs to be good off the edge and in coverage. Their DBs, Kool-Aid McKinstry especially, and Jalen Milroe needs to be able to escape the pocket but also be disciplined. He doesn't have to scramble when he doesn't have to. Georgia, they need to find Brock Bowers. And if he's covered, you got to find Ladd McConkey. And if he's covered, you run the ball. So Georgia has a really solid way of playing offense, and that's not the way, but that's what they should do. And we know their defense is really good. Bama, 1 loss, like I said earlier in most of my videos where I include them, to Texas. And everyone says, oh, Alabama sucks now. And they've had good wins. They beat LSU at Texas A&M. Georgia kind of sleepwalked the beginning of the year. Only beat South Carolina by 10, Auburn by 7. But then, after that Kentucky game where they won 51-13, it kind of went off for them. Beating 9-ranked Ole Miss 52-17, 18-ranked Tennessee 38-10, and escaping Georgia Tech, which is all you had to do to get into a number 1 slot. I expect this game to be very fast-paced, and I still expect them to run the ball. I expect it to be hurry-up. Nick Saban's have to play some good coaching because this is a tough task. Anytime you have to play Georgia, it's a tough task. If Alabama wins, I can't imagine that they get in because of the head-to-head to Texas. If Texas wins, Alabama pretty much won't get in. Because if they had won that game, they'd be favored in this game right now. But Texas winning that kind of put Alabama in a roadblock, which if Washington wins, if Florida State wins, if Michigan wins, or Oregon or Washington, they're most likely not going to make the playoffs. That'll most likely be Texas. So, and that's assuming they win. If Georgia wins, the playoffs are pretty easy from there. And I'm hoping for chaos, so as much as I would want Alabama to win this game and Milroe to have a great game, I don't think that miracle is going to bring any momentum. They're going to not want to have that again, but they're going to need a miracle in this game, trust me. Georgia, 5-point favorite. Give me the Bulldogs by 17. They're just so dominant in every way possible. All right, next conference championship game. SMU at Tulane. Now, I was actually at Tulane on their last game, home game against the Roadrunners to get into this game. I'll be posting that video sometime soon. I know I've been delayed on the 3 other games I've been to. Sorry about that. I've been busy. And I was really impressed by some Tulane players at that game. Michael Pratt to start, their quarterback. He's been incredible all year. I think he should get AAC Player of the Year. Not to mention on defense, where they had Jarius Monroe, who was physical. He was making all types of plays. He had a really good game that time. And also not to mention, two of their defensive linemen in Patrick Jenkins, who has 5.5 sacks this year, and Darius Hodges, who has 7.5. That duo is going to need to play good against SMU and Preston Stone, since they've been looking really good. And as I've watched the game lines slowly change, I've noticed SMU getting slowly closer to being favorite. But at Tulane, crazy atmosphere. I've been there before. Trust me, it's good atmosphere. They're 3-point favorites because of that. And there's more to this game than just Michael Pratt. It's who's going to be able to win the line of scrimmage, just like the Mountain West. Tulane with those 2 D linemen will. Tulane, 3-point favorite. Give me the green wave to win by 7. All right, we only have a couple games left. Let's start off with the Sun Belt, Appalachian State, who, if it weren't for the eligibility thing for James Madison, wouldn't be in this game. Sitting at 8-4, and the 10-2 Troy Knights. Troy, I haven't watched them at all this year, but I've seen that they've been good. I've seen that they've been impressive all year. App State, I have not been impressed with them at all. Meanwhile, Troy has been having a great year after I looked into it a little bit more. They've had solid wins, and their 2 losses were at Kansas State and to James Madison by 2. Other than that, it was very consistent since then. So because of that, Troy is a good team. I think if they win this game and win their bowl game, they could find themselves in the top 25 for the final rankings. App State at 8-4, their losses were to North Carolina by 6, good loss. Wyoming by 3, good loss. Coastal Carolina by 3, good loss. At Old Dominion by 7, decent loss. So their losses haven't been bad whatsoever. I just can't pick them over Troy. And because of that, Troy is a 5.5-point favorite at home, since it's another conference that doesn't have neutral site games. Give me the Trojans by 7. All right, 2 more games left. Let's blow by them real quick. Big Ten Championship. Mr. No Offense Iowa. Mr. Win the big games, but no one is impressed until then. No Michigan Wolverines. Michigan is the team to beat now. They beat Ohio State, and now everyone's talking about them. They're sitting at 2nd ranked, and I expect them to win big in this game because Iowa's offense sucks without Cade McNamara, and they're averaging like 5 points a game, it feels like. Only beating teams like Rutgers scoring 22 points. It's embarrassing. Michigan's offense has been looking really hot all year. And McCarthy, he hasn't been the most flashy quarterback all year, but he's been doing what's been needed to win the game. Michigan is a run-heavy offense, so they may not score as many points as people expect because they'll be chewing the clock up. But Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, you don't need to pass the ball if you have them. All you need is a good O-line and you're good. So because of that, Michigan's run game leads them to a 17-point win. A 31-point win as 22-point favorites. I see absolutely no chance of an upset here. One final game between my favorite team, the Florida State Seminoles, let's go, Noles, and the Louisville Cardinals, who I really wish they had beaten Kentucky because that would have helped Florida State's resume. But they decided they wanted to sleepwalk and worry about this game more, so now they're my number 1 enemy. If Florida State wins and they don't get in, then the playoff committee has to, get checked out because There's no way you don't put an undefeated Power 5 team out of the playoffs, and all that talk's been making me mad. I mean, they've had good wins. They beat LSU, at Clemson, Duke, Miami, Florida. I mean, without Jordan Travis, I get it. Like, if it's the best 4 teams, Florida State may not be one. But record means something in the college football playoffs. Louisville's at 10-2. Jack Plummer did not have a good game. And their run game's going to be big, but they're not going to be able to do much against Fabian Lovett and Patrick Payton and Jared Verse, not to mention their linebackers. So Florida State's defense is going to have to step up, and so is Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, and Trey Benson and Jaheim Bell. Without Travis, they're going to have to step up, especially Trey Benson, because they're going to have to rely on the run game a lot. And I still see Florida State scoring a bunch of points in this game. Rodemaker hasn't been looking amazing, but he hasn't been turning the ball over, which is huge. If they can take long drives and end them with points and play defense, Florida State will be fine. Florida State, 2-point favorite in Carolina. Give me the Seminoles by 7, and they get into the playoffs. And speaking of playoffs, before I finish this video, I think the playoffs are going to end up being Georgia 1 seed, Michigan 2 seed, Florida State 3 seed, and Oregon 4 seed. That's my playoff predictions. If you agree with them, make sure to like and subscribe. And thank you for watching this video. Comment who you think is going to make the playoffs on Sunday when the selection show happens. I'll be making a 2-part bowl game prediction where I'll be predicting every bowl game. Part 1, which is the smaller ones with the 6-6 teams, and the second one where it will be the big ones. So until then, happy holidays and see you later.